Chair Madrid.
Go ahead, Mike.
Mike, go ahead and open it up.
Oh, I'm sorry. It said on the script that you would be opening it up.
I'm gonna let you do it.
Sounds good. I'll call this meeting of the Littleton Board of Adjustment for August 20th, 2020 to order. May we have a roll call, please?
Chair Madrid,
Present.
Vice Chair Jenna, Board Member Browning, Board Member Holland,
Present.
Board Member Hummer,
Present.
Board Member Mitchell,
Present.
Board Member Wolven. We do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Do you want to go over the how this virtual hearing will be held and how you can participate if you're watching?
Absolutely, happy to.
Thank you.
Good evening, board members, staff, citizens, and guests. I'm Colleen Norton, City Clerk, and I'll be serving as the moderator for this evening's virtual meeting of the Board of Adjustment. We are streaming this meeting on Cable Channel 8, Facebook, and on our website, littletongov.org. Please be aware that comments left on Facebook Live will not be moderated and will not be included in the meeting minutes. Those wishing to participate in any public comment portion of the meeting are advised to view the meeting at www.littletongov.org /mylittleton/Littleton8TV. This broadcast has the least amount of delay. The agenda will be handled in the same way it would be handled for a regular in-person meeting. As always, citizen participation is encouraged during public comment and public hearings. To participate via phone, please call 669-900-6833, and when prompted, enter the webinar ID 919-0630-8105. There will be two opportunities for public participation this evening, once during public comment and again during the public hearing. Microphones will be muted for all citizens calling in. Citizens can press *9 to raise their hand to be recognized. Once recognized, speakers will have 3 minutes to address the board. The city clerk will announce when you have 30 seconds remaining and again when your time is up. We expect comments to be civil. Disrespectful or disruptive behavior will not be tolerated. For agenda items, the chair will ask for a motion and a second, followed by discussion and then a vote. Votes on agenda items will be made using a thumbs up for a yes vote and a thumbs down for a no vote. The clerk will call each vote with all ayes and nays.
All right, thank you very much. We will step right into our meeting with the approval of the agenda. Does anyone have any edits for the minutes? I'm sorry, for tonight's agenda. All right, seeing none, the agenda will be approved. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes. Are there any changes to the minutes from July 16th, 2020? If I don't see any, I did see a couple things that I would like updated. On a few of the votes that were in the minutes, it's showing alternates voting where board members are non-voting. I think they just have the titles mixed up. So we're showing, so on, like, for example, on page 3 of the minutes, and actually on all of the votes, I think the titles need to be updated. So we're showing alternate 1 Mitchell and alternate 2 Holland, where it should be board member Mitchell and alternate 1 Holland.
Okay, I will update those. Thank you, Chair.
And then on the and then the last one, we're showing board member Wolven, and it should be alternate 2 Wolven. But
I'll take care of it.
Other than that, everything looked great. So
excuse me, but I did have a coffee with new board member Wolven and gave her a little bit of a background and a little bit of a sense of how these typically are held and when she votes and when she doesn't, and that she's welcome to make comments, just not motions or vote unless she's replacing somebody missing.
Great. Yeah, thanks. And just for a heads up for everyone, since we only have 4 board members, all 4 board members tonight will be voting. As we can typically have up to 5 voting board members if possible, if alternates are here. But since we only have 4, we'll have all board members in attendance tonight, discussing and voting on the case tonight and on other items tonight as well.
I just wanted to step in really quick on the heels of what board member Mitchell indicated. The city attorney's office also has communicated with new alternate Walvin and indicated to her what she needed to know about quasi-judicial hearings and the voting status as an alternate.
Thank you.
I would like to make a motion. I
Mr.
move
Mitchell.
to approve the minutes for the July 16th, 2020 regular meeting of Littleton Board of Adjustment with a caveat that as supported by the meeting video.
Is that with the changes I brought up?
As amended.
Thank you, as amended. Thank you.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Mitchell and a second by Ms. Holland on the minutes. Are we doing thumbs up, thumbs down
Yes.
as voting?
Yes.
So we will call for the vote right now.
The vote is 4 in favor. The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much. We'll now move into the public comment section. I'll let our clerk go over how you can call in or participate in the public comment section of tonight's hearing. The public comment section of our hearings at the Board of Adjustment are to express any concerns or any statements that you would like the Board of Adjustment to hear that do not pertain to any cases on tonight's agenda. So, Ms. Norton.
Thank you, Chair. If you wish to address the Board of Adjustment under public comment, please call 669-900-6833, and when prompted, enter the webinar ID 919-0630-8105, and then press *9 to be recognized. Citizen microphones will be automatically muted until the citizen is called upon to speak by the last 3 digits of their phone numbers. When called on to speak, please state your name and district or address clearly for the record. Public comment is an opportunity to express opinions or ask questions regarding issues that are not part of public hearings or tonight's agenda. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. The city clerk will notify you when you have 30 seconds remaining and again when your time is up. The board is not authorized by the Colorado Open Meetings Law to discuss, comment, or take action at the meeting on any issue raised by public comment that is not part of tonight's agenda. We expect comments to be civil. Disrespectful or disruptive behavior will not be tolerated. Chair, we currently have 3 callers in the queue, 2 with their hands raised to speak. The first caller with the last 3 phone number digits of 819, you have been unmuted on our end. Please press *6 to unmute yourself on your end, and please begin speaking now.
Hello, Board of Adjustment. This is Pam Chadbourne. I live in District 1, that's downtown. And what I'd like to talk about tonight, not in the public hearing, is the proposed Phase 2 code amendments for downtown, or at least claim to be downtown, but there's several things in there that aren't downtown, but which would apply, of course, to the whole city if passed. I'm really concerned about these Phase 2 code amendments. I think they are radical. I think they have not been vetted with the public at all appropriately. And so I want that concern to be known to you folks. I think that you have a function that should be exercised more strongly, and I wish I could appeal to you folks about Phase 2 officially. Let me say that the changes allow consolidation of lots up to a half a block long and massive structures up to 3 to 4 stories, which is a substantial change from the character of downtown now. They also reduce open space drastically to like 5%. and allow multifamily or multi-use, mixed-use buildings. They claim that this doesn't change the character of downtown, and I'm going to tell you that on its face, I think that's foolish and a false claim. The small parcel size and the limited size of the structure on the lot is essential to the character of much of Littleton and downtown in particular. I'm not saying that there should never be change. I'm saying that this change is too much and radical and destructive, especially in an area that's supposed to be historic. And we had design standards which made an attempt to control mass and scale and design of new infill development to not make the historic structures irrelevant. I think the proposed rezoning, and they're trying to rezone 154 acres of downtown, all of it, would within 20 years, the development that would be put in would make the historic structures downtown irrelevant. And so I think we would lose something that's very rare in the whole state of Colorado.
30 seconds.
And something that hundreds, if not thousands, of people before us have worked to build and preserve. Also, there's been no delay of this process to accommodate COVID-19. There's been no downtown residents involved. There's been no handicapped folks, no senior people. The process is broken. And so it should be extended and more work should be done to fix this product. Thanks very much for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pam.
Chair, our next caller has the last three phone number digits of 223. Caller 223, you have been unmuted. Please press *6 to unmute yourself on your end and begin speaking now. Let's give him just a moment. Caller with the last three phone number digits of 223, you have been unmuted.
Good evening. My name is Robert Bram. I live at 5626 South Crocker Street. I am sitting on my back porch with several of my neighbors, and we are, of course, concerned about the proposed adjustment at 5605 South Crocker Street. I think our primary concerns revolve around setbacks and the size of the lots.
Excuse me, just 1 second.
Okay.
Thank you for your call. We are currently in the public comment section of our meeting right now, which allows citizens to call in with things that are not on tonight's agenda. We will have a
I will wait.
Yeah, we will have a public hearing section part of the actual case in which you're referring to right now on Crocker. That's our only case tonight on the agenda. So when we open it up for public comments, we would love to hear your comments on this case.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Madam Clerk, are there any other calls?
We do have three other callers in the queue, none with their hands raised.
Okay. I'm guessing those might be for the public hearing portion of our night tonight, or maybe they're just calling in to listen.
Possible.
Okay. I didn't know if there was like a specific queue for people who wanted to speak versus people who are just listening. So
no.
Okay. Great. With no other calls for
just one moment, Chair.
Yes.
We do have a caller who just raised their hand.
Okay.
Caller with the last three phone number digits of 729. You have been unmuted. Please press *6 to unmute yourself.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello.
Tell us your name and,
Okay.
and your district or your address, please.
Yeah, we are in the Loughton Heights Historic District. We're 5638 South Loughton Street.
And your name?
We are
Your name?
my name is Jeffrey Held, H-E-L-D.
Thank you.
And we wanted to express concerns that if they subdivide these lots, that they won't be deemed as multifamily dwellings.
Hi,
And that they will
Jeffrey.
be
Jeffrey,
Yep.
just one moment. This is the chairman of the Board of Adjustment, Mike Madrid. If this is in regard to tonight's case at 5605 South Crocker Street, is that what you're referring to?
That is exactly what I'm referring to.
Okay, so just as a reminder that this part of our meeting tonight is the public comment section of the hearing, in which we allow citizens to come forward and have 3 minutes to speak with the Board of Adjustment about any concerns they may have, or just to have a statement on anything that is not on tonight's agenda. When we get into the public hearing section of our agenda, that will be your time to, we will open up to public comments during the case while we're discussing the case and hearing from the applicant and from staff, and that will be when we would love to hear those comments that you have about this case.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Then I'll go on mute.
Great, thank you very much.
Chair, there are no other hands raised in the queue.
All right. So with that, we will move on from public comment onto general business, of which we have none. So we will just continue on through to our public hearing section of tonight's agenda. Madam Clerk, if you'd like to give those instructions once again to call in and to raise your hand, those instructions.
Happy
Please.
to.
Thank you
Citizens
very much.
wishing to, absolutely. What citizens wishing to speak during this public hearing, please call 669-900-6833. And when prompted, enter the webinar ID 919-0630-8105. Once on the line, press *9 to raise your hand to be recognized. Speakers will have 3 minutes to address the board on this topic after the staff presentation. This is BOA Resolution 05-2020, approving a variance to reduce the minimum lot width from 65 feet to 50 feet at 5605 South Crocker Street, case number VAR 20-0004.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. And without any other comment at this time, I will hand it over to Mr. Onsager for staff's presentation of this case.
Indeed, and I believe Michael Sutherland was going to introduce me very briefly.
Oh, thank you, Carl. Good evening, Chairman Madrid and members of the Board of Adjustment. My name is Mike Sutherland. I'm the Deputy Director of Community Development within the Community Services Department. I would like to introduce Carl Onsager, the case manager for this. Carl was recently received his American Institute of Certified Planners certification. So congratulations, Carl, and please take over.
All right. All right. Thank you, Board of Adjustment. This is Carl Onsager on behalf of the City of Littleton staff presenting Resolution 05-020 for 5605 South Crocker to reduce the minimum lot width. So this would reduce the minimum lot width from 65 feet in the R3 zone to 50 feet per the variance request. No other variances are requested or required at this time. The property is located at 5605 South Crocker Street. That's at the corner of Crocker and Powers. The applicant is requesting a reduction in the minimum lot width to subdivide this property into 2 lots. So the intent is to remove the existing structure and replace it with 2 single-family homes. This would maintain the R3 single-family home zone district. So a rezoning is not being requested for any multifamily at this time. It is simply to allow for 2 single-family homes to be built. And then a minor variance to reduce the minimum lot size has been previously approved administratively. The property in question is part of the Littleton Heights subdivision. This is one of the oldest subdivisions within the city of Littleton, and was platted back in 1890. And the subsequent zoning for R3 was adopted by the city in 1960. And so that's part of the reason so that R3 zoning established a 65-foot minimum lot requirement. The image on the right is a plot plan showing the existing structure and those 4 existing lots from that original plat. And so it was common practice back in those days to subdivide in 25-foot wide lots and then sell those in 2 and 3 lot configurations. So you end up with 50-foot wide lots and then 60 and 75-foot lots. And so that's kind of what you're seeing on the left there is, or on the right is the current structure over the existing 4 lots on that site. So doing a review of all of the parcels within that R3 zone district, there are 57 of those parcels that are zoned R3 within that original subdivision. And of those 57, 47 are in those 2 lot configurations. So only have a 50-foot wide lot width. And those are shown in the coral color on the map there. So as reflected in the staff report, the 5 criteria that the zoning request must meet, the property remains residential and remains single-family residential per that single-family R3 zone. The essential character of the neighborhood is there are 57 of those lots zoned R3, and 82% do not meet that R3 zoning requirement for both minimum lot width and minimum lot area. And then 47 of those, by reviewing all of the legal descriptions, have a lot width of that 50-foot wide 2 lot configuration from that original Littleton Heights plat. This is the minimum necessary to subdivide the 4 lots into 2 to allow for 2 single-family homes. So this is the configuration that meets that minimum to replat into 2 lots. This would not impact public health, safety, and welfare. All the R3 zoning requirements for setbacks would still need to be met and would be reviewed at the time of building permit. And all of the fire and safety regulations would remain. And given the fact that 47 of those lots have existed in this 50-foot minimum lot width, it doesn't appear to impact the health and safety. And that the hardship was not created by the owner or occupant. And these, like I said, the lots were originally platted in 1890. And the zoning existed ever since 1960. And so these conditions reflect a regulatory hardship, from the historical plat and then the overlaid zoning. And so this is a historical hardship that was not created by the owner or occupant and was not a result of any violation of this code. As such, is staff's opinion that the application meets each approval criteria, and staff recommends approval of resolution 05-2020. And I would accept any questions and be happy to respond at this time. Going forward, so again, the request is to reduce it from 65 feet to 50 feet, and the options are approval with conditions, denial, or continue to a date certain at this time. But I would accept any questions at this time.
I have a question for either Carl or Mike. It says in the staff report. The subdivision of this property, well, let me just, first of all, I did make a site visit, and it's a lovely street. The homes are well kept. There's various sizes of lots. Some of the double lots are a bit more attractive in that they allow for much more vegetation as compared to size of the structure. The following comment is made. The subdivision of this property into a two-lot configuration is consistent with and even enhances the predominant character of the neighborhood. I find the difference in lot sizes, and some, as stated earlier, some of the lot sizes being bigger than 50 feet. Can you expand on even enhances, please?
Carl, if I may, that was my wording. So if you don't mind, I'll answer that one.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Mitchell. The word enhances there. As Carl's brought up on the map, most of the lots in that subdivision are 50 feet wide, and the proposed split of 4 lots into 2 creates even more conformance with the surrounding neighborhood than the existing lot does. And the word enhances may be a little bit of an overreach on my part, but it certainly conforms to the character. And if there are any objections to that word enhances, I believe that appears in the proposed resolution, and you could strike that from the resolution if you wished. But my intent there was to mention that the proposed variance allows a lot split that is in very much in character with the surrounding neighborhood.
Thank you. I wouldn't suggest that we need to remove your wording. Just was asking for the comment that you just made. Thank you.
And I would second Mike that, we fully agree on that, given the overwhelming, 50-foot character, having a 100-foot wide lot would actually potentially go against that predominant character in that neighborhood.
And one more comment, given the site visit that I made, across the street, across Powers Street, there is a lot of open space. And so this particular property is kind of right on the edge of, on one side, you've got a lot of 50-foot lots, and on the other side, you've got wide open space. So it could go either way and be appropriate for the neighborhood.
All right. Do we have any other questions for staff at this point from any other board members? I do have, Board Member Holland. Board Member Holland, you're muted right now. Oh, you're still muted. You gotta unmute yourself. There you go.
Okay, let's try again. This was a daycare center, is that correct?
That is correct. So the original approval for that daycare center was approved in 1968 by a bygone process. And because that property had ceased operations for over a year, it would needed to have gone through a conditional use permit process to resume operations as a daycare center or a private school. And so at this time, there's also kind of through years and disrepair and some open things, it would be difficult to resume it both as a daycare and frankly, in its current state as a single family home in its current condition.
Thank you.
I have a question real fast in terms of the intent of the applicant wanting to split this parcel into 2. What is the minimum lot size for the R3 zone district?
Minimum lot width is 65 feet.
The
lot area is
lot area
6,500. So that would be a 65-foot wide lot by 100 feet deep, whereas the lots in this subdivision are actually 125 feet deep. So
Okay.
even with the reduction down to 50 feet, it only comes about 3% shy of that minimum lot area. So that's where the administrative variance came in.
So the administrative variance was done earlier this year.
Correct.
And it reduced the minimum lot size from 6,500 to 6,310. If the overall size right now of the property is 12,500, how does that help them if they cut it in half? One of the lots would be too small, or potentially both of them.
So both of those lots would be would meet that minimum lot width established by that minor variance of 6,320 feet, I believe. So that was so staff can grant a variance up to 20% of the minimum lot requirement pursuant to 10-1-9 of the city code. And so this variance itself, we could have granted up to a 13-foot reduction in minimum lot width, but because this requires a 15-foot reduction, that is just above what staff could have approved administratively, which requires the Board of Adjustment.
Oh, and I'm not worried about the width. We're talking about the width tonight. I'm talking about just the area. If they were to subdivide their property and cut it in half, the overall area of the property right now is 12,500. Is that correct?
I believe so. I could confirm with some quick math.
I think it's a bit less than that.
It's 12,500.
So if you cut that in two, you end up with 6,250.
Mm-hmm.
And if the administrative variance only got them down to 6,310, which is what I'm wondering about. If they only got down to 6,310, if they cut this in half, then they're only at 6,250. They're still a little short on the minimum lot size.
So I think that's a oversight on staff's part, my part to be frank, where I would have. So this is one of the older plats, and frankly, upon first review, was a bit hard to read. So I think I was using the assessor acreage as my guiding math there rather than the plat itself. Upon deeper analysis, and especially with that survey that the applicant has provided, it clarifies those actual numbers. And so I would go back and revise that administratively to reflect the correct amounts from that minor variance.
Which again was 6,000.
Would require a reduction by 250 feet rather than the.
And what's the number?
20% they're allowed to do.
Yeah, it was 6,000. How many? 200?
250.
250? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we had it at 6,310 based on bad calculations. So we could revise that to 6,250 and correct that paperwork.
So that would be done administratively then, not coming back to us. Okay.
Yep, correct. That's still within staff's bounds, and I think based on the original logic of that assessment criteria, the additional reduction down to 6,250 would also apply.
Okay. Thank you. Do any other board members at this time have any questions for staff?
Is it not true that the three corners that are not shown on this application detail in front of us, the other three corners, northwest, northeast, or at least maybe two corners, those are quite large lot sizes, are they not?
So the properties adjacent to this parcel, so on the screen, the subject property is this gray box at the corner of Powers and Crocker. And so those properties to the west are within that 50-foot lot configuration.
To the north, excuse me, Carl, to the north, on the north side of Powers.
So to the north, that's actually a separate subdivision and not part of Littleton Heights. And so per my analysis, I also felt that it would be unfair to compare it to a separate subdivision and therefore a separate context that would have been, created and approved at a later date. But I could go find out when that other one was. But I felt for the fairness to the property, it would be better to keep it with the other parcels that were subdivided at the same time in 1890 and then subsequently built within the same time period as this original house in the early 1900s than to bring in subdivisions from other contexts.
Okay, thank you.
As the comparison.
Yes, thanks. Okay.
Okay, seeing no other questions from any board members from staff or for staff, is our applicant here tonight, and will they be giving a presentation as well?
The applicant is here, and they are presenting no formal PowerPoint, just an unmuted presentation from the dais.
Okay, we'd love to hear it. And our applicant is Chatrick Clerk.
Evening. I don't know if you all can see me. I was on the screen earlier. Want to thank all of you for being here tonight. It is, hold on, it's asking me to start my video. There we go. I want to thank you all for being here and your attention to this matter. I really appreciate it. I also want to thank the staff. I think they did an awesome job of explaining all the particulars on the plat. So just going back, I just kind of wanted to introduce myself, and my fiance is on here also, Michelle Beck, and just to let you know where we're coming from and what our intent is for this property. It is, I actually grew up in Littleton, went to school at Rapone Heritage. I coached football at Littleton High School, so I'm pretty tied into Littleton for a long time, other than my years in the service. And my intent is to actually, I'm a contractor too, so and a builder. So my intent is to, with the lots divided, to put 2 homes, single family homes that are in direct line with what's already in the neighborhood. I want it to feel like it belongs there, instead of a lot of infill lots or these rectangles that just get stuck and maximize the square footage a lot. We actually want something that's aesthetically pleasing and fits with the neighborhood. That's our number one goal. Subsequent to that, and probably more important, is I intend to live in one of the 2 houses, and that's going to be our retirement home. So we're planning on staying in Littleton and being part of this this neighborhood. So it's very important for us to make sure we're in line with the neighborhood, that we keep all the neighbors happy, and hopefully improve what's on that corner lot right now, which really doesn't fit into the neighborhood. And that being said, this lot divided would actually look, I think the number was 47 of the properties, and only 10 of the ones in the neighborhood are actually larger lots. So I think it presents a better opportunity to have 2 homes there that fit in and look like the other lots. Other than that, I didn't really have anything other than I just wanted to make sure that I got to personally meet you all in this new age of how we meet on Zoom, and to introduce Michelle if she wants to say something. We weren't able to be in the same home at the same time for this meeting.
Here, you put me on video? Put me on video for a second. Hi, everybody. I'm Michelle. And of course, I can reiterate what Rick said, and also let you guys know that it's important for me, not just with the house, but I do want to have a nice yard. I come from the East Coast, and when I moved out here way back in 1990, I'm like, where are the trees? And I live in an older neighborhood now, and it's important to me to have a nice yard and to only take out the trees that we actually have to, but to replant. I just want you guys to know that is important to me. I want a front porch. I'm from the Southeast originally. I want a front porch swing, and I want a nice yard in the front. So I know some of the neighbors have worries about, the setbacks, and I'll let everybody else handle that and answer those questions. But I do want to have a house like the other houses where you can have a front porch. And the house that is the new house that's behind the lot, the new square house. I had a chance to talk to the gentleman there, very nice. And he likes the neighborhood and the house and everything. He made the comment about like, I wish I didn't have so much yard in the front. And I know, having talked to some of the neighbors, they pointed out to me, well, that's the way it was designed, because back in the day, you used your front porch and you spoke to your neighbors. And Rick and I have visited the neighborhood and found that to be very much the case. And anyway, so I just wanted to point out that it's not just the inside in the building, but it's also just the feel of the neighborhood with the trees and keeping as much as we can in that feel.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your comments. Do any board members have any questions for our applicants tonight? I do have a quick question for our applicant. Have you spoken to staff about the setbacks of this zone district and how that might be affected by having a more narrow lot than the zone district envisions?
Well, actually, I have spoken to him a number of times, but as a contractor, I'm pretty familiar with the setbacks and how they have to fit on a lot. And when we design properties, that's what we are working within the codes and the setbacks that are required. So that's not really a challenge for me. I think more for Michelle, it's making sure with that we can save as many trees as possible. So. But yes, I'm very familiar with the setbacks and how to build inside them.
The only reason I bring that up, this board has seen a few cases on corner lots in the past few years that happen to be more narrow just because of the platting, like you've seen with the Littleton Heights plat, where maybe a lot was a little too narrow, and then especially being on the corner where you have additional setback requirements for that corner lot, but by doing this, that if you've looked at the criteria in the staff report for being granted a variance, especially for a setback, if you were to try to come back for that, if you needed to, that the fifth criteria is speaking to kind of a self-imposed hardship, which I think this board, if you were to come back again and have to ask for setback relief, especially on that corner lot, that it might be very difficult to do. Have you discussed that with staff at all?
I haven't discussed the setback on the corner lot, but that's the lot we intend to build on. So for ourselves, but I have looked at the code and talked to my architect already about how we can fit inside there. And so I think it's 13 feet on the side. So I'm pretty familiar with the setbacks, and we'll just have to build within that. So I feel pretty confident we can make that happen.
Chairman Madrid,
yes.
if I may, we did some recent code revisions that changed the sight distance triangle on those corners, which could help considerably in reducing the chance for a future variance.
I just saw in the R3 zone district that the side on a corner lot, I think is 10 feet to the north, where a normal side setback may be a bit smaller than that if you're an interior lot, not on the corner of the street. But it's good to know that the site triangle requirements have been pushed back a little more, so that way it allows for additional building and closer to the street anyway.
And another recent code change. So we did have a pre-application meeting with the applicant that went over kind of the subdivision requirements, and I believe the setbacks were included in those notes. I'll make sure that they are made aware. But the code has also been recently revised so that eaves and similar architectural elements can now encroach within a small amount. So that should also allow some of that design flexibility and reduce any need for future variances. The other being just that, our townhome subdivision lots are 30 feet wide, and that would be their building envelope with a reduction of 50 feet and, a 10-foot on the south side setback and a 10-foot on the north side because of that corner lot condition. you're absolutely right. If it's an interior lot, that north setback is 5 feet.
Okay.
But just given that we have seen provisions for a 30-foot wide home, that's a comfortable building envelope. And so, yeah, I don't, they've been notified also that future variances would be kind of self-imposed at that point. So
yeah, I just wanted to make sure that that's clear before we move forward with this. I have seen a few applicants in my experience anyway, who once they get one thing, they want to move on to the next. I just want to make sure that that's been communicated to them by staff. And thank you for that background information. That's very helpful. Do any other board members have any questions for our applicant tonight? Okay, seeing none, we will now move on to our public hearing section at this time. I will open the public hearing at 7:16 p.m. and we'll hand it off to Colleen for our instructions again.
Thank you, Chair. We currently have 6 callers in the queue, 4 with their hands raised. For anybody wanting to speak on this who has not already called in, please call 669-900-6833. And when prompted, enter the webinar ID 919-0630-8105. Once on the line, press *9 to raise your hand to be recognized. Speakers will have 3 minutes to address the board on this topic. The city clerk will notify you when you have 30 seconds remaining, and again when your time is up. The first caller on the line with their hand raised has the last 3 phone number digits of 819. Caller 819, please press *6 to unmute yourself. And you may begin speaking now.
Hi, Colleen. Is that me, Pam Chadbourne? I guess I'm still, my hand is still raised from before. Thank you.
We can hear you, Pam.
I'm Pam okay, and I'm Pam Chadbourne. I still live in downtown Littleton. I wanted to make some system level considerations, and I would say that I'm not able to make these observations without the specific findings already made by staff, so I'm grateful for that work. But I think there's some system level considerations that I'd like to flesh out a little bit. Criteria 2 says that the variance will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood or zone. And I want to mention that downtown Littleton is platted pretty much the same way, with the 25-foot lots that are combined to a 50-foot frontage. And I'm going to tell you that a lot of those now have slot homes on them. So I am concerned about the possibility of that kind of change being proposed in other neighborhoods of Littleton now that it's been established pretty violently in downtown. There's also criteria 5 about the hardship, and I just want to mention that this property was in bad shape before it was purchased a few years ago. And it is hard to bring up to speed for the type of use, such as daycare or something like that. But the current state of affairs was known. I mean, you can see it when you go inside. So I do want to kind of mention that state of affairs of the property right now is kind of visible. So thanks for the map of the neighborhood, but I'm going to say that you can see that the corner lots are the ones that tend to be the ones that are combined or larger. So yeah, okay, 47 are one way and 10 are the other, but the 10 tend to be the corner lots. And I'm also going to mention that Louthan Street, the next street to the east, is a historic district, which, you know, I'm just not sure was emphasized enough. And frankly, Crocker shares a block. The backyards are adjacent or contiguous with the backyards of Louthan Street. I do think that consideration of Louthan Street as a historic district has to be part of this consideration, although I will note that this is on the other side of the street than the Louthan adjacent yards, but it's important. So
And
I live
30
downtown and I have a corner lot, and it combines 3 of the 25-foot frontages, and that might be to accommodate a sewer easement and a power utility electrical easement. And so lots of times the corner lots need the extra size for easements. So I also don't think it's true to say that subdividing them into 2 standard lots fits the built pattern, because corners are larger, and zones with this pattern include larger corners downtown, and that's
Yeah,
likely
that's fine.
functional. Okay, so thanks very much for your consideration.
Thank you for your comments.
Chair, the next caller with their hand raised has the last 3 phone number digits of 223. Caller 223, please press *6 to unmute yourself. You may begin speaking now. Please remember to identify yourself.
Good evening. My name is Robert Bram. I live at 5626 South Crocker Street, directly east of the property in question. I'm here with many of my neighbors who also live across the street, and next door to them. There are a couple of things we just want to mention. We have met with Rick and Michelle. They seem to be very interested in maintaining the character of the neighborhood. The things that we are primarily concerned with are as follows. First and foremost, the survey revealed that the fence on the south side of the property in question is actually 1 foot into the property immediately south and would need to be brought back up a little bit. That's a minor thing. I think our concerns are being addressed by Rick and Michelle and more of the design and the character of the neighborhood. And a big part of that has to do with elevation and height of buildings that are built. When the house immediately to the west of this was built recently, they brought in a lot of fill dirt and they raised the elevation a lot before they built the house. And then it kind of ended up blocking some views of a lot of people of the Front Range, particularly the 2 properties immediately to the south and the property directly across the street to the east lost some of their view. We are concerned about that. That would be very, very big part of it. I think as far as the actual subdivision itself, as long as these are 2 single-family homes and not, for instance, a duplex or something like that, that is within our understanding of what Rick and Michelle are proposing. And I think the other thing is, of course, the setbacks, which you were discussing earlier. We really do want to make sure that those stay in place. Obviously, this is a historic area. This is the very first subdivision that was added on to the original city of Littleton. And because of that, our houses are unique. They're not cookie cutter. They do reflect the age of the neighborhood. And we would hope to within the best of their abilities anyway, that when this is developed and put up, that they indeed try and work very hard in keeping with the neighborhood character. And those are our main concerns at this point. And that's about it. Thank you for letting me speak. And my neighbors here are listening very carefully. So look forward to hearing the results.
Thank you for those comments.
Chair, the next caller in the queue with their hand raised has the last 3 phone number digits of 729. Caller with the last 3 phone number digits of 729. Please press *6 to unmute yourself. You may begin speaking now. Please remember to identify yourself.
Hi, this is Jeff Held again at 5638 South Loughton. We live in the historic district, and after hearing what you have to say, Rick and Michelle, we appreciate that you're trying to adhere to the guidelines and respect the neighborhood. I would echo a comment of the last caller that we just want to make sure that the height requirements remain within the guidelines, and that they don't do what they did with that corner lot to the west. So those are my comments, and welcome to the neighborhood.
Thank you for those comments.
Chair, we have one final caller in the queue with their hand raised. They just went away. We have no other callers in the queue with their hands raised to speak.
Okay, no other callers. Should we, I don't know, were they waiting for a while and then they just disconnected, or should we give another minute, or?
That's your call if you want to wait a minute to see if anybody else joins or raises their hand.
Yeah, we'll give it a few more seconds here, just to make sure. I want to make sure that everyone who wants to give their comments has the opportunity to before I close the public hearing.
If you are in the queue and would like to address the board on this issue, please raise your hand, press *9 to raise your hand if you have not already participated. Chair,
Okay.
There's no action.
Sounds good. So I will now close the public hearing at 7:26 p.m. And that'll conclude the public hearing portion of our case that we're discussing right now. At this time, I would look to our board members to see if we have a motion that anyone would like to put forward so we can begin our discussion. Mr. Mitchell, I believe you're muted. I think you're still muted.
There we go.
There we go.
I would like to make a motion, but I need a bit of wording from staff. And here's my motion, and then we can talk about an amendment to the motion after staff gives me their input or gives the board their input. I move to approve BOA resolution 05-2020, approving the variance to reduce the minimum lot width from 65 feet to 50 feet at 5605 South Crocker Street. And I want to add to that with the condition that they do not bring in a lot of ground, any ground, and then build a house on top of that new ground, which would raise the height of the roof.
So before we get into a second, can we have a quick explanation from staff as to how building height is measured and how grade is determined, et cetera, what the code says about building height in this zone district?
Absolutely. So this is another piece of the code that was recently revised. So height is now measured from taking the average of 2 points adjacent to the building, the highest point and the lowest point, and then measuring up to the peak of the roof. So the highest point of the roof structure, and that establishes your height. And in this zone, that would be set at 30 feet as your maximum height.
Are the points
now, there is a provision in that says you cannot manipulate that grade by more than 6 inches to gain a height advantage.
Okay, so in other words, let me see if I can get clarification. So that the 2 points used would not be on this site; they would be points that already exist off of this site. Is that correct?
I believe what he's saying is that from where the structure is going to be placed, that footprint, they take the low point and the high point of that footprint and average them. Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct. And then there's a provision in there that says you cannot manipulate that grade by either lowering the grade or increasing it by more than 6 inches to gain a height advantage.
So,
is that, go ahead, Mr. Mitchell.
So then if we want to put in a condition, do we reference and measure the current height of the lot as it is now?
So that is taken into consideration as far as it's measured from the proposed final grade of the site, because construction requires, usually some moving of earth, but at the end of the day, that final grade through that measurement can't be manipulated by more than 6 inches. And so it's ultimately measured from final grade, but yeah.
I have a quick interjection for staff. In the packet, you have an improvement location certificate for the property, which is not a survey. I know there's been a couple mentions tonight calling this a survey, and it's an improvement location certificate. I just want to clarify that. But do we have an actual survey or an improvement survey plat that shows the existing grade with topographic lines, or how does staff determine where the 6 inches begins as the existing grade? Is there a historic topography map? Are there contours from a certain year from some sort of data that we have that we determine this?
So that's reviewed at the time of building permit in this case. If this was a multifamily development, it would require a site development plan, but as a single family home development, this would be just a submission of a building permit. And so that information and those details would be reviewed at that time. And we would be looking at both historic grades on the grading plan for that site, and then the proposed finished grades as well.
And just to interject, I've already done the survey. I've done the plat division survey, so I have it available.
Okay. Then let me add to my motion with the condition that staff would need to approve the grade proposed when the homes are built as compared to the grade now, and that there not be any significant 6 inches, whatever you want it to be, increase in height. I need some help with the wording, but that's what I'm trying to get to.
If I could interject, this is the city clerk. I would like to ask the city attorney to interject, because what it sounds like, Board Member Mitchell, is you're asking staff to approve something they would already be approving per our code. So it's not necessarily a condition, more a direction to do what they're supposed to do anyway.
Good, thank you.
So I don't know that there needs to be a condition, but I'll let Ashley speak to that.
Thank you. That's correct. You don't need to add any special conditions if it's just for the applicant in this variance to comply with what our code already says they have to do. So essentially that would be the case, that they would not be allowed to change the grade as Carl has stated if this variance was approved once they go to build on that lot, and the height requirements would still be required per our current code.
Okay, so I'm making then the motion that I stated earlier.
Without special
conditions.
Without condition, just the
correct.
The code to with your permission, Board Member Mitchell, if I could just repeat that so
yes,
you can confirm.
Okay.
That you move to approve BOA Resolution 05-2020 approving a variance to reduce the minimum lot width from 65 feet to 50 feet at 5605 South Crocker Street.
Period. Thank you.
Great. All right, we have a motion for approval. Do we have a second?
I second the motion.
We have a motion for approval by Board Member Mitchell and a second by Board Member Hummer. We will now open this up for discussion amongst the board members. If anyone would like to begin, Mr. Mitchell, if you made the motion, if you want to begin the discussion.
No, I'll pass.
No. Would anyone else like to offer? Board Member Holland.
I just have a question. When we're talking about the elevation and the variance of 6 inches, and that we take the highest point and the lowest point, are we talking about the ground as it is? And this side might be higher, this side might be lower. Is that what we're talking about?
So what that criteria is whatever the house shape is, they take, let's say the house is tilted like this on grade, for example. They would take the high point over here and the low point over here, and wherever that midpoint is, that's the bottom of the structure.
And that's where the 6-inch variance would be?
Yes, so if they wanted to add dirt, then that would be, or I don't know, let's go to staff to clarify that. I'm guessing that's where it'd be, or where the initial points would be taken from.
That's exactly correct. That those would be the two, and then we would review to make sure that none of those points were kind of, oh, we put more dirt over in this corner to get inadvantageous reading from that side of the structure. So it's less of a 6-inch variance and more just a a manipulation of grade.
Okay.
So
and it prevents the applicant from either digging out a bunch of dirt to build into the ground or adding a bunch of dirt to build a much taller structure as well.
Okay.
Correct.
And just for clarification, also, we're talking about 6 inches, and the max height in this zone district is 30 feet?
Correct.
Okay, so we're talking 30.5 feet at that point with all this discussion on the grade.
And that's something that's reviewed rather vigorously at the time of building permit.
Great.
So it sounds like the concerns of the neighbors are addressed.
I from what I heard in the public hearing, there are concerns about the character of the area.
Mm-hmm.
I also, like Board Member Mitchell, did a site visit and did notice the house to the west, which you can tell just by driving by, looks a lot more modern than the homes that exist there today.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think and from what I heard from the public comment is that there are fears that they may be getting another one of those or in this case 2 homes that look like that, rather than kind of matching the style and the character of the area.
Mm-hmm.
And just going back to staff one more time, in terms of design standards for a home, is there an architectural review? How is that handled in the building permit process?
So there is a standard within the code that discusses architectural compatibility as far as 10-4-1. And I think just to kind of mention that the applicant, could build a single family home on the lot as it exists by just replatting it into a single lot. So you could end up with a much larger structure that might arise all of the same or similar concerns that I'm hearing through this. So, but that would also be considered, but it's also something that would be considered at the time of the building permit. But I think the applicant has expressed their desire to match some compatibility with that neighborhood. So but that would be reviewed at that time. We have some guidance, but it's not entirely it's not entirely easy to administer.
So were those design standards and the architectural compatibility in place when that structure to the west of the subject property was built? Or has there been updates to the code since then?
There have not been. I will say that the structure to the west was not part of my review, and I can go see. I've been with the city just over 2 years now, and so that structure might have actually predated my time with the city as well. So, but I could find more information.
Okay. In terms of the discussion we're having right now, I think the biggest citizen concern is the character of the area. But in hearing the answer that we just heard from staff, right now they have the use by right of a single family home on the property, and the design standards either the single house that they build on the lot right now, or the two homes that they would build if this variance were to go through and they could split the lot in half, would be exactly the same, other than you may be able to build a bigger house on the lot right now versus having two smaller homes in the future if this were to be approved. And so in terms of the design of the structure, as long as they're following the code, they're not asking for any variances from the design standards in the code. They're just asking for the lot standard of the width of the lot versus how the building will look, which is up to the applicant following the code during the building permit process anyway.
So that would not be anything enforceable anyway. If they decided to go against the character of the neighborhood, then they could, unless it's the historic preservation. Would they be involved at all?
They would be able to build as long as it follows the code. So they would have to stay within the purview of the code. If they wanted another variance for architecture or design, they could come back and ask us. But I'm hoping that our applicant tonight has heard the public comment and heard the concerns of the neighbors, and have their architect take that into consideration when designing these homes. And like you mentioned, Board Member Holland, that the item on the table tonight is for the lot width, not necessarily the design of the home.
And I actually misspoke, so I just pulled up that section of code under 10-4-1D. So that talks about architectural compatibility and elevation drawings being required for multiple family and multiple family residential and non-residential development. And so this site is in fact not, under that purview of the code, and there is not a historic district here. But again, I think the intent that staff has heard from the outset is to build a product or a home that matches some of that character. But as far as code requirements, they would be required under the zone district.
So what we're discussing right now anyway is if they wanted to not split the lot in half and just build a single home on the property, they would have the same constraints design wise as they would if they were to be able to build two. So is that correct, Mr. Onsager?
That would be correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that's been communicated and that's clear. Do we have any other discussion from the board?
I have another question.
Board Member Mitchell.
What is the current code from a parking standpoint? You have at this point, a single family, we'll call it a single family home on an existing lot. What's the requirement for parking versus what would be the requirement for two homes? Because you're going to have double occupancy for a given piece of dirt.
So the parking requirement is based on dwelling unit. And so this would be required to park 2 cars per home. So that would be 2 cars if this was one home built on a 100-foot wide lot, or 4 or 2 cars built on each for each home on a 50-foot wide lot.
Thank you. Okay.
And those are off-street spaces too.
Yes.
And
right.
This is also loaded, in that initial review, these would also, the garages and access from cars would be off of the alley on this site as well.
Thank you. Okay.
Do we have any other discussion from our board members tonight? Okay, so we have a motion for approval of this case and a second. Madam Clerk, can we call the roll, or can we call the vote, actually?
So now we will vote. I'm sorry, Chair?
Is this a thumbs up, thumbs down, or are we doing a roll call?
Thumbs down. A thumbs up is to approve the variance. A thumbs down is to deny. Go ahead and cast your votes now, please. The vote is 4 in favor. The motion carries unanimously.
All right, thank you to our applicant tonight. Your variance has been approved for the lot width. And thank you for all of the citizens during the public comment section of tonight's case, as well for your time.
And a nice job by staff.
Yes, also a very nice job by staff. So with that vote, we'll now move on to comments and reports on our agenda. We will start with our Deputy Director of Community Development, Mr. Sutherland. Do you have any comments for us tonight?
Thanks, Chairman Madrid. No additional comments.
Sounds great. Anything from staff? Mr. Ronsager?
No additional comments at this time.
Wonderful. Any board members? Any comments at this time? I want to thank everyone for their time tonight. Thank you to staff for all their hard work. These staff reports are very useful, very helpful, very informative. Makes our job a lot easier just to read through it, get all the information we need, and it's presented in a very clean and easy to understand way. And so I just want to thank staff for all the hard work that goes into these reports. I know how much work goes into those reports and those packets overall, especially with legal staff and our wonderful city clerk doing all the hard work. We were just mentioning before how the notification for the cases coming up is very helpful for us to kind of keep on our radar, kind of understand, okay, do we have anything coming up? Do we need to ask if something's coming up? So it's always good to see those as well. So that way we kind of know anything that's coming up either at the next hearing or even after that. So just a great thank you all around to the Littleton City staff. And with that, unless there's anyone else that has anything to say, I will adjourn this hearing. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
A wonderful night, everyone.